Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's me, Yeonni, and for today's video, I wanted to talk about social work or research coordinator. Which one's better? Let me just start off the video by saying it's kind of clickbait because they're so different that it's really hard to compare. So yes, that is the answer from the get-go, and I want to spend the rest of my video kind of explaining why. So in case you're new here, I spent the past 4 years working as a social worker for about 2 years and as a researcher for about 2 years. I'm currently working as a researcher and actually in my last 2 weeks of work, which is so crazy to think about. I will be going back to grad school in the fall to get started on my PhD in psychology, which I'm so excited about. But anyway, with all of those life changes happening, I've been in a very retrospective, self-reflective phase in my life. I mean, your girl always likes to overthink anyway, but I like to think and process. If I were to go into every single detail about what I like and what I dislike, what are my favorites and things I hate about these industries that are so vast and look so different for everyone, this would be a video that goes on for days. So I took some time to organize and think of my most favorite thing that I enjoyed of being a social worker and the thing I really disliked the most about being a social worker, and then even working as a researcher, the thing that I enjoyed the most, my most favorite thing about being a researcher, and my least favorite thing about being a researcher. So with all that said, let's get straight into the video. Before we actually get into the video, hi, if this is your first time on my channel, my name is Yeonni and I'm a mental health professional making videos here on my YouTube channel. I make videos on mental health, social work, social justice, life advice. Sometimes I make vlogs, I make lifestyle videos, whatever kind of videos I feel like making here. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, please make sure to check out my channel and subscribe. It would be awesome if you join my small corner of the internet. Now we can get straight into the video. Since I started off my career journey as a social worker, let's start with that topic. And since I always like to kind of end things with a positive note, we'll start with the thing I disliked the most about being a social worker, and then we'll end with the thing I loved the most about being a social worker. So the thing I disliked the most about being a social worker, you might think that I would say maybe the paperwork, the documentation. Basically, that's the element of social work that I think a lot of people may not realize. But when you're actually working with patients in the field, there's a lot of paperwork and procedure and compliance paperwork and documentation that goes into the work. But to be honest, that wasn't the thing I hated the most about being a social worker. The thing I hated the most was the insurance and the payment and the healthcare accessibility elements of being a social worker. An example I could use is I had a patient who we had been working together for months, and it took a bit of time for us to gain that rapport. They had to come see me because of X, Y, and Z reason, and then they didn't want to be there, and I'm just this social worker, this person, and there's a power dynamic, of course, and they don't want to talk to me about what they've been going through. Life has been so tough for them. Through consistently seeing each other every week, I believe we were able to work through potentially getting into the deep-rooted potential trauma this person might have gone through. And then one day it was time for her appointment, and I was like, where is she? Why is she not here yet? And then reception gives me a phone call saying, oh, she came in to sign in at reception, but then her insurance got declined, so we had to tell her to leave, essentially. So because her insurance got cut off when we couldn't bill her for seeing me, they had turned her away. And that just really made me so upset and angry, because I think now that I've been in the industry, I understand that's a pretty regular part, and it's really unfair because I feel like mental health care is a human right, and accessibility is something that we really need to work on as a country, as a world. But yeah, that was the first time I experienced that, where I was like, so what do you mean? Where is she? And then they were like, oh, she can't come back until she figures out her insurance stuff. And I was like, how is she supposed to figure out her insurance stuff without her social worker, me? And they're like, oh, well, I don't know, but she has to go to someone else because we can't bill her. And that made me very upset. I really hate that. I really, really, really believe that mental health care access is a human right, and it is something that we can really, really work on to make sure that people who need emotional support and guidance, and as a social worker, you help with a lot of documentation with helping people get set up with Social Security, insurance, their retirement plans, things like that. And those should be human rights to be able to get help to that, and money should never get in the way of things like that. So I hated that quite a lot. On the positive note, the thing I love the most about being a social worker, if you are someone who has been on my channel for a while, you already probably know the answer, but it's being able to work with the patients. Whether it was my very first social work job, or my last one when I worked in San Francisco. Social work is not an easy field. There's so many different levels of obstacles that we have to go through as social workers, whether it's, like advocacy when it comes to our salaries and benefits and how we're treated in agencies, and also just the emotional elements of the job. Like we're human. I struggle with depression and anxiety. And like as someone who's dealing with that, in a way, we are like a cup that holds other people's, mental health concerns and struggles, and trying to figure out self-care through it all, being there for the patient while also being there for myself. It's hard doing this job, but through it all, what kept me staying and what keeps me still feeling so proud to have been a social worker in my lifetime is that I got the amazing opportunities to connect with some of the most strong, resilient people in our communities, people who had everything taken away from them, people who really, it's just like, sometimes during sessions, it would just slip my mouth like, it's amazing, like you're amazing. The way that you're able to get back up and still face life, get up every day, despite everything that they go through. Being able to connect so intimately with patients and being able to have that privilege of their trust and work in those settings, I truly believe that it shaped me not only professionally, but shaped my outlook on life. I have social work to thank for that. I truly have been so humbled as an individual and person doing this work, and there is truly so much potential. Although I'm going into a degree in psychology now, I really hope to and plan on incorporating a lot of my social work training and background into my psychological training as well as a psychologist. There's just so much potential of the good work that you can do when you are directly working with these marginalized populations with good intent, with the skills and tools that you have. And yeah, we'll move on to the next one, but I'm clearly so passionate and so proud to have been a social worker. All right, so let's kind of flip the switch and go into my next hat that I wore in my professional career as a researcher, aka my official title was a research coordinator. So once again, we'll start with the thing that I really did not enjoy about being a research coordinator. I guess this in a way connects with the thing I love so much about being a social worker. The transition was a bit hard for me because when it comes to being a researcher and research coordinator, the job is actually completely different. I actually work with the same type of population, people struggling with severe mental illnesses and those struggling with substance use. So as a social worker, my job was to provide therapy, but now as a research coordinator, although I'm working with the same population, my job was to collect data from these individuals. We ask such intimate personal questions, right, about severe mental illness, about a person's history, medical history, their interpersonal relationship history, history of trauma. But for the purposes of data collection, I found that really challenging in the transition because I wanted to do more. And I think I might have, I'm getting a deja vu moment. I might have mentioned this in a previous video about being a research coordinator, but like as a therapist and social worker, I always felt like I wish I could do more. But then as a research coordinator, it was just so much like, I so wish I could do more because you can give referrals, you can send people phone numbers, but making them go there, it's up to them, right? And that was really hard. But I've worked with some amazing participants these past 2 years, and it's amazing what some humility, respect, and just treating people like human beings can do, like the power of that. I've been saying my goodbyes the past few weeks and giving people heads up, I'm leaving. A lot of feedback that I've gotten is that it's been beneficial to them when it comes to accountability, like seeing someone multiple times a week and being treated kindly and with respect and warmth and compassion. That led to a positive experience for them. So I guess that's all I can ask for. Despite feeling like I couldn't do enough, they came out of this with a positive experience. So that's all I can ask for, yeah. I guess I kind of cheated. That already kind of transitioned into something I enjoyed about the research work, which is being able to help people. But another thing that's different from social work that I really enjoyed about being a researcher is all of like the science-y aspect of it. I know that might be kind of weird, but like so much of, I think, therapy is based in evidence, based in research, but in the moment, you're kind of stuck to your vices on trying to remember at times these evidence-based theories and the steps. And if you're too stuck on like an algorithmic approach to therapy, it's not as organic as some therapy sessions can go. And sometimes it could actually hinder the progress of therapy and how helpful you're being to your patient. So with that in mind, I would struggle a lot with imposter syndrome of feeling like, did I handle that well? Do I know what I'm doing? But I really did enjoy the objective aspect of being a researcher, where I go in, I ask these 5 pages of questions, all of those bubbles are put in, I click save, and then like I've done my task. You know, I know I did my job well because I collected that data and there's nothing missing, right? And then the aspect of, for us, since we work with like a sample analysis machine, at the end of the day, I run the samples, I get a number, I input that into the system. It was kind of like a system in place that felt way more objective than doing therapy, if that makes sense. Of course, with therapy, after sessions or during sessions, you could be taking notes, documenting. There's different methods that different agencies and like insurances want you to take documentation and notes for psychotherapy sessions, but it's just so different for every manager of these clinics, every type of clinic, every outlet. Is it like a community-based clinic? Is it a hospital? What kind of database are you using? And are people checking your notes? Are people doing their notes? So with all of that said, on the other side of things, here in research, I did enjoy that majority of my job functions were quite objective, which is odd, right? Because I just said I didn't like that, but I guess I felt a sense of security being like, at least if my manager ever comes to me and is like, okay, what'd you do these last 6 months? I can just show them the database. I collected all this data. You know, it just felt more objective in that sense, and I can check rather than second guessing, triple guessing myself after certain therapy sessions that didn't go as well as I had hoped. So those are obviously some of my thoughts on like social worker versus research coordinator, which is better. And like I said in the beginning of the video, can't say neither. Both. They're just so different. There's overlaps, but there's also very different aspects to the jobs. And I really think you don't really know what it's like exactly until you try it yourself. And that's what I went through, and I learned so much through the process of having been a clinician, going into a researcher role. And I would say overall, through all the challenges I dealt with, despite the challenges, because there were challenges, it's never easy. I like to try to tie a ribbon around these phases of my life, but you know, I also like to be candid and vulnerable with you guys. And if you've seen my videos, you know, and if you see my Instagram stories at times and I'm like in the clinic till like 9 p.m. fighting with the urine analysis machine, you know, it hasn't been easy. But at the end of the day, it was such a worthwhile experience, and I feel so grateful for every job opportunity that I had, whether as a social worker working in New York, social worker working in San Francisco, and this most recent job I had, which is working as a research coordinator here in Seattle, Washington. I do feel so grateful for these opportunities that I had, not only professionally, but like I said, personally. So much of working with marginalized populations, I feel like I really can't do anything else in life. You know, after all of this, it's like my eyes have been opened to how incredibly resilient the human being can be, and there's so much that can be done. There's so much need, and the more I gain experience and knowledge, the more I feel the need to do something about it, right? To do more about it, to contribute to society more. So I mean, as you can see, I'm pumped. Like, I'm pumped for this next chapter that's gonna look so different. I'm so excited for my classes, so excited to do all the field work I'll do as a psychology intern. That'll be interesting. So with all that said, thank you so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure to give it a thumbs up, and I will see you next week with my very next video. Bye!